Hello, this is Charlene. In this video, we're going to be talking about a couple of things. The first thing is the loan payment formula for fixed installment loans. One type of fixed installment loan can be a student loan. So we are going to be calculating the payment for a student loan. Let's read the problem they've given us. A graduating student has a student loan in the amount of $24,000. The loan has a fixed interest rate or annual percentage rate of 9%. Determine the monthly payments if the student wishes to pay off the loan in 7 years. So this is our nice big formula that we're going to use. It does give us the payment. And of course, the key thing in our title was fixed, which means it's going to be the same payment month after month after month. And we are going to take information from our problem and put it into this equation. It says that our student loan amount was 24,000. That is going to be in the P position. P stands for principal loan amount. So the student loan amount is the principal loan amount. We also are given the 9% APR. Well, the 9% APR, we do not use 9 in our calculation. We will actually take 9, divide it by 100, and turn it into its decimal version, which is 0.09. And that number will go into the rate position. So that 0.09 will go there and there also. Look on those two positions. Okay. So we also have a 7-year time period. So the 7 years is the T. T is equal to 7. So we are going to put that 7 into the time position. Now we also have this additional um, N number. N is how many payments are we going to make every year? Well, we're going to pay monthly payments. So if we're paying monthly payments, that means we're going to pay 12 times a year. So the N is equal to 12. So we're now going to go ahead and put all those numbers into our equation. We are going to put 24,000 in the P position, 24,000. We're going to multiply it times this ratio of the rate over the number of payments per year. So our interest rate was 0.09. Our number of payments per year is 12. Close the parentheses. Now we're going to go to the denominator. So there are lots of brackets and parentheses here. I just tend to use all parentheses when I'm putting them into the calculator. But if you want to use brackets and can find that on your calculator, more power to you. Okay, so parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus, again, we'll repeat this ratio. It's 0.09, which is our interest rate divided by the number of payments we will make every year. Close that parentheses. And if you notice, this is a negative. So the negative is indicative of the fact that our loan amount is going to go down every month. So we're going to go ahead and put a negative number of payments per year, which is 12 times the time. And again, we said that was 7 years. So that will be times 7. Now I'm going to enter all of my numbers into my graphing calculator. I wanted to make sure that you know how to enter everything to take full advantage of your graphing calculator. So the first thing I'm going to do is push alpha, green alpha button, F1. So green alpha button, green F1 pulls up the fraction options, numerator over denominator. So I'm going to push enter to choose that. I now have my numerator up. I'm going to put in my $24,000 principal loan amount, parentheses. Now I'm going to pull up another fraction function because the ratio R over N is fraction. So green alpha button, green F1, choose the fraction function again. Our rate is 0.09 for 9% interest rate. I'm going to make 12 payments a year. So I down arrowed to get to my denominator. Now I need to get out of my fraction. So I'm going to right arrow and then I'm going to close the parentheses. Now I go to my denominator And like I said, I use just all parentheses. It's easier for me. I think there are some brackets down here beside the times sign and the subtraction sign, but I just use all parentheses. I don't bother with the extra steps to get the brackets. So I'm going to do parentheses 1 minus parentheses 1 plus. I need that fraction function again. So I'm going to do green alpha button, green F1, enter to choose the fraction function, put my ratio in again of 0.09% or 0.09 for my 9% interest rate. I'm going to go down arrow to the denominator. I'm going to put in 12. So I have 12 payments per year. I'm going to right arrow to get out of that fraction. I'm going to close my parentheses. Then I'm going to up caret to the exponent position. And I needed to make sure that you knew that you're to use this little minus sign down here between the decimal and the enter sign. You do not use the subtraction sign. Use the little minus sign down here for that negative exponent. So negative 12 payments per year times the number of years, which is 7, and that gives me an answer of 386.137. The 7 is big enough to change the 3, so it is going to round to $386.14. So I can pull that over so you can see what all we put into the graphing calculator. And my payment for my student loan is going to be this number. If I round it, it's going to give me $386.14. That will be my monthly payment for my student loan every month for 7 years. The next question related to my student loan is how much interest will the student pay over the life of the loan? So the first thing that we need to find out in order to answer that question is we need to find out how much all my payments add up to. So we found in the previous screen that our payment was $386.14. I am going to make those payments 12 times a year, every single month, and I am going to do that for 7 years. So I'm going to multiply these three numbers, and that is going to be the total of all of my payments. So the total of all my payments, when I calculate that, is going to be $32,435.76. Now that I've found all my payments, I can now calculate the interest. So the interest is going to be equal to all my payments, which is the $32,435.76. And I'm going to subtract off the loan amount. Well, my loan amount for my student loan was $24,000. So when I do that calculation, it gives me an interest amount of $8,435.76. So that is the total interest on my student loan. Final question with respect to our student loan says, using your payment from Part A above, make a table showing the amount of each payment that goes toward principal and interest for the first 1 year. So what they are asking us to do, they're asking us to create an amortization table. So we're going to focus in on this part right here and see what they're telling us in that little box right there. Hang on just a second. Let me pull this up. Okay, here we go. So they tell us in that little box that we are going to have a 9% interest, which we already knew that. We had a 9% interest, but we're going to divide that 9% interest by 12 because the interest is going to be divided up every year into 12 payments. So it's going to give us 0.75% when we divide 9 by 12. And then, of course, here they have actually converted that to its decimal version. So what they have done, they have created the monthly interest rate. So that is what they've done. Instead of having your overall interest rate of 9%, they've said, here's our interest rate. We're dividing it up by 12 months a year, and that is going to give us our monthly interest rate. So we're going to create this amortization table using the monthly rate. So the monthly rate will be the 0.0075 for each month. Let's look a little more closely at our amortization table. If you notice, it has three major columns. We've got the interest column, and we've got the principal column, and we've got the remaining balance column. We already looked more closely at this column header and determined that our monthly interest rate would be the 0.0075. That's the monthly interest rate based on the annual interest rate. The annual interest rate was 9%. When we divide that up into 12 equal payments over the year, it ends up being a monthly interest rate of 0.0075. So that is repeated in every row of our amortization table. So where did they get the 24,000 in the first row here? Well, that came from the beginning balance. The beginning balance of our loan was 24,000. So the very first month, your monthly interest rate is going to be based on the full loan amount. And when we calculate that 0.0075 times 24,000, that gives us an interest payment of $180. That means out of your payment, you're going to give the bank $180. Well, let's move to the second column. The second column says the payment towards principal, which is the payment minus the interest. So in one of the earlier screens, we actually figured out that our monthly payment was going to be $386.14. So our total payment is the $386.14, but we are going to subtract off our $180 interest payment. So that's the $180. We're subtracting it off, and that gives us a new remaining amount that can go toward the principal of 206.14. So this right here, this is the amount of money that is actually going to go toward paying down your loan. That is your principal payment. Principal payment. Let's spell that correctly. Principal. Okay, so that's my principal payment. So here's my interest payment for that month, and here's my principal payment. So now in the third column, we're going to find out a new balance. So we're going to do the new balance minus the payment toward the principal. So that means that I'm going to take this 24,000, which was the balance previously, and I'm going to subtract my principal only, not the interest. The interest goes back to the bank. Only your principal payment pays down your loan. So we're going to do 24,000 minus the principal payment, and that's going to leave me with a new balance. So my new balance on my loan is going to be $23,793.86. Um, we can call it a new balance, but I also can call it the remaining balance. So the remaining balance or the new balance. So what are we going to do on the next row? We are going to take this new balance. That's how much we owe on our loan now that we've made a payment. And we're going to bring it down here. It becomes the new balance here. So that $23,793 figure comes down here. There's $23,793.86. So again, my monthly interest rate is 0.0075. So I multiply that 0.0075 times my new balance from the previous row, and that is going to give me my new interest payment. So this month, the bank is going to receive $178.45. So we make the same payment every month. If you notice, it's 386.14, 386.14, 386.14 will repeat down here. But this month, we're going to subtract off our interest payment. Our interest payment was the 178.45. So I'm going to take my full payment and I'm going to subtract off the interest, and that is going to give me payment that is going to go toward my principal. So that means this is my principal payment for the second month. There's my principal payment. Okay, so that means that this principal payment is now this principal payment is going to be subtracted from my remaining balance. Well, my remaining balance came from the row above. So that figure comes down 23,793.86 and 23,793.86 was the remaining balance. This is my principal payment I'm subtracting. So this is going to leave me with my new balance, which is also known as my remaining balance. So that figure right there is going to come down to the next row. So let's go ahead and bring everything down to row 3 and fill this out together. Okay, so I have my monthly interest rate, which is 0.0075, and I'm going to multiply that times my remaining balance, which of course is over here. So that's going to be times 23,586 and 17 cents. And then that is going to give me my interest payment for this month. So let's go ahead and pull up our calculator, and we're going to do 0.0075 times 23,586.17. And that's going to give me an interest payment for this month of 176.90. I'm going to round that up. 89 cents rounds to 90 from the 6. So 176.90. 176.90. So that is my new interest payment for the third month. Now I'm going to bring that over to this position in the second column. So again, my payment amount does not change. So my payment amount still comes down. It's still 386.14. But my new interest comes from the first column, 176.90. So it's going to be minus 176.90. And we're going to calculate that. 386.14 minus my current month's interest payment of 176.90 cents. And that's going to leave me with a principal payment of 209.24. So it's going to be equal to 209.24. So that payment, like I said, all this is kind of moving over. It's like this, it's here, and now this is going to go here. Everything's moving over and having the next transaction. Okay, so again, we are going to bring down this remaining balance here. So the remaining balance from last month was 586.17 minus my principal payment was 209.24. So 209, 24, and that is going to give me a remaining balance. Let's see here. 2, 3, 5, and 6 and 17 cents minus my remaining or my principal payment of the 209.24, and that's going to give me a new remaining balance of 233.7693. So that's 233.7693. Did I remember that correctly? 233.7693. If you can read my writing, that's the problem, right? Okay, so that ends up being my new remaining balance. That is my new balance. So each one of these rows, you're going to do exactly in the same way until you complete the chart. And I'm going to tell you a couple other things about the chart as well. You will continue to do all of the transactions on each of these columns. You'll do the interest column, you'll do the principal payment column, and you'll do the new balance column. And you'll do the same thing on every single row. After you get all those completed, you should be able to add up all of your interest payments. So when you add up all of those interest payments, the total should be equal to $2,055.37. When you add up all of your principal payments, the total should be equal to $2,578.31. This third column is a little bit different. This figure here at the bottom, 21,421.69, that should be equal to your final entry. So your last entry in line row 12 should be $21,421.69, and that would make that balance at the end of the year. So this would be the same exact figure. So this is the final entry for the year. You will not add up the third column. You will just enter final new balance. Okay, so I hope that you have enjoyed the video and feel a little bit more comfortable working on these kinds of problems and assignments. Just go ahead and click the subscribe button and click on the like button and come back and see us another day.